It's a new season, and the BC Lions have high hopes on improving from a year ago.
What a throw from Jonathan Jennings.
Travis Lulay is on fire.
With a promising 1-2 quarterback punch and the return of 2014 League MOP Solomon Elamimian, the Lions hope to improve on last season's early playoff exit.
Darian Durant returns.
Riderville was mostly restless in 2015, but with Darian Durant back in the fold and Chris Jones now at the helm, the sky appears to be the limit in Saskatchewan. CFL preseason action continues. Lions and Riders next. It is the beginning of the end of an era in Saskatchewan as the Riders get set for their final season at Old Mosaic Stadium with a brand new home awaiting next door. But the new era has really already begun for the green and white. That's the Chris Jones era. Now a head coach, GM, VP, making massive changes to a team that finished dead last in the CFL at 3-15 a year ago. As for the BC Lions, they finished a distant third in the West, but they too are looking for big improvements with Jonathan Jennings set for his second year and the veteran QB Travis Lulay back healthy again and set to go for another season as the preseason continues and our coverage of it here on the CFL on TSN. Welcome, I'm Rod Smith. Speaking of quarterbacks, by the way, healthy and ready to go again, talking about Darian Durant is dressed for this game tonight, but he is not expected to play. Tell you a couple of guys that are expected to play, ready to go again for another year. Say hello to Matt Dunnigan and Chris Schultz as well. Where did we leave off? Winnipeg, you may recall, at the Grey Cup last November. And really there were two big stories, both centering on Chris Jones when you look at it. The Eskimos winning the Grey Cup, but also the rumor that was going about, Matty, that Jones was about to take over all the operations in Saskatchewan, and that was confirmed just a few days after the Grey Cup. Certainly the biggest change of all in the offseason.
Oh, my God. It was a house cleaning, too. He took everybody with him other than Kes McCorvey's down at Middle Tennessee State. And I think if I'm a Saskatchewan Roughrider fan or part of that Rider Nation, which I am, we all are, you got to be excited about your opportunities now. 3-15, they got a legitimate chance just with this coaching staff alone, because players need coaches and coaches need players. They got the entire staff at Edmonton. That's a quality staff, Schulte. They turned around just 2 short years in Edmonton with a healthy Darian Durant and their mindset. Well, I'm excited to be a Rider fan right now.
I'll say this. I bet you he gets the Saskatchewan Roughriders into the Grey Cup within 2 or 3 years. And I say this because in the offseason, they had 25 free agent camps. 25. That's one almost every single week of the entire offseason. Covered 3,000 players. He's great at finding football specimens. He puts them in that little petri dish. He sees those things develop over time. All of a sudden, the experiment is completed, and they're winning.
Petri dish.
You ever do the experiment with the petri dish? No?
Remember
your chemistry days?
Bunsen Bakers, yeah, the animal.
Yeah, all that
man.
stuff.
We're rocking it. Absolutely. I'm excited, though. I'm excited. In one, we got the new unis. I love the BC Lions helmets already. I saw those. Jonathan Jennings over there. You know, Wally coming out of the booth. There's so many things going on. Dude, we don't have enough time. Can we get our own show?
Oh, yeah. Hey, we will. We'll keep working on it. And Wally Buono's at the center of the show now as well, back as a head coach again. He left as a winner in 2011 with the Grey Cup. And, yes, back on the sideline after 1 year with Jeff Tedford coaching the BC Lions, who are coming out now. Manny Arsenal leading the way. And the Saskatchewan Roughriders, how different will they be in 2016, final year at Old Mosaic? Their first preseason game is coming up.
What's up, TSN? Saturday, preseason, football.
Jennings looking over the top for Arsenal in the end zone. Touchdown!
They're on fire! This is the way it's supposed to be at BC Place.
Yeah, Saskatchewan Roughriders making a splash.
I woke up this morning with a smile on my face.
Hello, Canada, and welcome to preseason football tonight in Regina, Saskatchewan, the final season of football at Mosaic Stadium at Taylor Field, the new Mosaic Stadium, ready next year to play.
Preseason game 1 for both these teams. Interesting storylines when it comes to the quarterback position. Darian Durant started in warm-up but will not play tonight. B.J. Coleman out of University of Tennessee, Chattanooga will get the start. He's battling with Brett Smith for that backup role behind Darian Durant. On the other sideline, Keith Price, former Rider, will get the start for the BC Lions. At quarterback for the Lions, it's 1 and 1A with Jonathan Jennings. Right now, the starter for BC, but Travis Lulay has had an outstanding training camp.
Jonathan Jennings, we'll see some of him tonight. And guess who's back? Wally Buono, all-time winningest coach, 5 years removed from the sideline. And look who is in Saskatchewan. Chris Jones, with his Grey Cup ring, brings his army of coaches to Regina. We're underway here. And Quaterius Ford, one of the newcomers, has the football in these new orange uniforms with the black pants for the BC Lions, and the Saskatchewan Roughriders in their traditional green and white. And there is B.J. Coleman, starting quarterback tonight in this preseason tilt.
Former NFL draft pick by the Green Bay Packers. And we will see both B.J. Coleman and Brett Smith pretty much split the reps in this game against the BC Lions as Chris Jones tries to find that backup quarterback to Darian Durant.
First and 10 from their 21. Coleman quickly cutting back, and there's a penalty flag. Naaman Roosevelt, one of the holdovers from last year. Saskatchewan also lost a couple of key receivers in Weston Dressler and Ryan Smith in the offseason.
Major foul, face mask, BC, number 29. 15-yard penalty from the end of the play. Automatic first down.
Al Bradbury is our referee tonight, a 15-yarder.
Stephen Clark with the early penalty, and there is the godfather of football in our country, Wally Buono, winningest coach in CFL history, back on the sideline, went up as the GM after the 2011 season. He's back coaching the team as well now.
Inducted into the BC Sports Hall of Fame last night. And out of the backfield, Rob Bagg down to the 20 and finally knocked out of bounds. And Bagg has a long gainer from Coleman to start this one off. A 56-yarder.
Great speed. Rob Bagg hits the seam, and you could see he's in shape. He's healthy. He's had a couple of back-to-back seasons now where he's played the entire year. The injury issues are behind Rob Bagg, and he shows you he's still got that get-up speed. Big play for the Riders.
Inside the 15-yard line. Coleman to the air again, showing off that arm. End zone! And unable to hang on is John Childs, the former Argo, looking to make a circus catch in the end zone.
20 games with Toronto and was in coverage, I believe, or in the one-on-one battle with TJ Lee, veteran defensive back for the BC Lions, and Lee just wrangles him to the ground as the ball's arriving. Couldn't make the one-hander.
So second and 10 now for the Riders in this opening drive in their opening game of the preseason.
And no challenge.
No challenge on that play. Coleman, a little pump fake, a wobbler, and it is picked off. And TJ Lee is ruled out of bounds, incomplete pass, as he was flying through the air to make that grab.
I think B.J. Coleman's going to get bailed out here with this throw. He didn't see that T.J. Lee was up high and cut underneath this throw, but both feet, it looked like to me, live were out of bounds. Certainly the right one. You only need one, but it's got to be first.
So here's Tyler Crapigna, the former McMaster Marauder. And Stampeder boots this through. Quick drive aided by some penalties and a great long gainer from Rob Bagg. 56 yards on the screen from B.J. Coleman sets up the field goal. Rob Bagg back at it again. 3-0 Riders.
There is the starting quarterback right now for the BC Lions. Finished strong last year in Jonathan Jennings. Won't start this preseason game tonight. It'll be Keith Price, the former Saskatchewan Roughrider, getting the start. Really 1 and 1A in BC, though. Jonathan Jennings and Travis Lulay both will play in this game tonight, according to Wally Buono.
Both have their buckets on. We'll see both. Travis Lulay says he has accepted this role right now, but makes you wonder what would happen if Lulay does have a good preseason. Or Jennings runs into trouble, but Jennings had an outstanding season last year. And trouble off the start getting this play off.
Time count violation. BC, number 12.
Now keep in mind, Keith Price has been inserted in as starter. He does not take first-team reps all week.
Well, and Wally Buono's saying that he had great respect for a Chris Jones run defense, and this is a completely new, rebuilt defense that Chris Jones put together. He's got that reputation, of course. Championship season with the Edmonton Eskimos last year. So Keith Price, we'll see if he can handle the different looks.
Price now, play action, and rolls out to the near sideline, and the ball is out of bounds.
It's a good way to do it, just to see what's going to... Chris Jones has got dialed up defensively. One way you can do that offensively to see what he's got is to get your quarterback out and around the edge, and pretty good throw on the run, just a little bit outside, and BC Lions will go second and long.
To one of their newcomers, draft pick Shaq Johnson out of Western. Wally Buono, Kahari Jones, they were talking before this game about some of the speed they have over the top. That one is knocked down. We got a penalty flag. Zoma Nwachko was the intended target.
Defensive pass interference, Saskatchewan, number 11. Point of foul, automatic, first down.
Machuca, the target, and an interference call here.
8 starts last year with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Ed Gainey, early contact from behind. The Lions have a new set of downs.
From their 43-yard line, Price now in trouble. Gets away. The former Rider now has to romp, and he goes to the sideline, steps out of bounds. Just past the first down marker. Actually, the initial line of scrimmage up near the 45-yard line. So just picking up 1 yard, but had to run about 40.
Nice athleticism there from Keith Price, former Washington Husky, who left that school with 11 Husky school records. Tremendous athlete with a live arm and making some noise in the BC Lion training camp. Now they're looking for their number 3. Boulay and Jennings will be 1 and 1A.
And again, trouble getting this play. And Price called a timeout.
Timeout, BC.
Guy who is in charge of the offense, used to run the quarterbacks here, including Darian Durant in Saskatchewan. Longtime CFL coach and player, Kahari Jones.
Absolutely crucial that every team has a coach that has played the position of quarterback in the CFL. Kahari Jones, of course, outstanding career as a starting quarterback, for the most part with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. He's made the transition. He's now the offensive coordinator in BC, and especially the young quarterback, Jonathan Jennings, is going to learn a ton from a guy who's played the position.
So it's 2nd and 8. And again, trouble for the BC Lions.
New rule this year in the Canadian Football League, the offensive linemen are allowed a little more movement up front. Now this was too much, clearly, or see the number on this procedure call.
Procedure, BC, number 59. 5-yard penalty, remains 2nd down.
You know, forever, Rod, the offensive linemen, once they put that hand on the ground in 3-point stance, were not allowed to really move at all, not even signal to the player beside them or wave. Now they put their hand down, they have a little bit more movement. They want to eliminate some of these procedure calls.
Well, already a couple for the Lions. And a quick dart thrown, but quickly the Roughriders converge, and that's Devin Brown, one of the Lions that Wally Buono and Kahari Jones are high on. They say this guy can really fly, but that time he was going nowhere. The Riders were all over him. Richie Leone. Back to receive is Marquez Clark, Central Oklahoma. Big kick. Clark sent back to his 17. There's one block, but not enough. They're on a 48-yard boot. 3-0 Saskatchewan here tonight. Preseason Saturday Night Football on TSN.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Saskatchewan Roughrider Football Club extends its deepest sympathies to the family of Mr. Hockey, Gordie Howe. Please stand, remove your headwear, and join in a moment of silence in memory of Saskatchewan's own Gordie Howe.
Sports world in mourning. Last 24 hours, Mr. Hockey passes away at the age of 88. Saskatchewan's own, born and raised in Floral, Saskatchewan, outside of Saskatoon, and everybody knows what famous number 9 did in his career. Stanley Cups, Hall of Fame, ended up playing until he was our age, Suits, which is remarkable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know that just listening to the testimonials, Rod, and everybody, all the athletes, and Barack Obama even sending a testimonial and talking about Mr. Hockey. I don't know that there was an athlete in any sport more respected than Gordie Howe.
Well, there was nobody named Mr. Golf or Mr. Football. I mean, and look at Garth Brooks playing in Saskatoon. This was last night.
Paying homage. Last night, he's got 2 shows tonight, one tomorrow night in Saskatoon to wrap it up. And #1 guy in country music, paying tribute to Gordie Howe as well.
Mr. Hockey. Funeral next week in Detroit. Public visitation on Tuesday at Joe Louis Arena. There's Shamad Chambers, the former Edmonton Eskimo, and I got a battle on the line there.
And Chris Jones brought a couple of players with him. He brought pretty much an entire coaching staff with him from the Grey Cup champion Edmonton Eskimos last year. And that also, Stephen McAdoo, his offensive coordinator, came along with them. And the Canadian Football League tweaked the rules after the move from Edmonton to Saskatchewan.
Well, we had heard about it. There were rumors and whispers, and a lot of people thought, no way, it could not happen after the Grey Cup, but in fact, it did. There's Coleman going over the top and almost picked off once more. Keenan Parker, James Parker's son.
Wally Buono wanted to take a good look at Keenan Parker on that wide side corner, and he plays this play like a veteran. He's got the short flat or from the line of scrimmage about 10 yards deep, but he sees the throw, reads BJ Coleman's release, and slides underneath that to help the deep cover man.
So it'll be 2nd and 10 here. Coleman sends them out again, and this one is picked off this time by TJ Lee, and this one's good. Looking for John Childs, and Coleman has had 2 balls and end up in the hands of TJ Lee early in this ball game. One did not count. This one does.
Like it was just simple as a high throw. He wanted to go to the inside spot, and on this basic seam route, just overthrew it. And when you overthrow the football, there's DBs back there waiting.
Let's get it. Work what?
4 picks for TJ Lee last year, the BC Lions.
So the former Rider back at it on an out pattern again. Looking for Machukwa, Uzoma Anuchuka from Texas A&M, who we might have to call him Bright Shoes. They call him Easy, was his nickname.
Well, can we go with Easy?
I like Easy a lot better than.
And speaking of bright shoes,
the only guy on the field with shoes like that.
He's got the glow-in-the-darks. He's sporting the glow-in-the-dark orange. And talking to Coach Buono about it, I asked him, I said, are you faster because you got the orange shoes?
2nd and 10. Price now steps up and is brought down. Corby Irvin filling that ever-present number 97 that was here, of course, worn by John Chick, no longer here. So there is a penalty on the play.
Illegal contact on a receiver. Saskatchewan. 10-yard penalty, becomes first down.
So the Lions will move the sticks.
Another rule change where coaches this year will be able to challenge all aspects of the passing game, not just defensive pass interference like they could last year. That was an illegal contact call.
Handing it off in the backfield. Shaq Murray-Lawrence.
Let's just see how this develops, Rod, when you take a look at the rule changes this year. Some aggressive moves by Glenn Johnson and the Rules Committee. They're now with the illegal defensive players on a push block. That's a pretty simple one when you try and push a guy to go and block a kick. The peel back block just for player safety, that's another good one. No question and no concerns there. The challengeable penalties now.
Virtually almost everything now.
Quite a lot, yeah, certainly in the passing game.
Price now scrambling. Look out, back down. Sean Lemon.
Free agent signing when Chris Jones in December signed on as the head coach and general manager of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. He reworked his defense almost immediately, and Lemon, of course, you know about Sean Lemon. Ottawa for 9 starts last year, had 6 sacks during that time. Also brought in Eric Norwood, who is not dressed and playing tonight, and Justin Capicotti from Ottawa not dressed and playing tonight. So that D-line is improved already.
Well, that's one thing. Chris Jones has made his mark in the Canadian Football League defensively. So Sean Lemon has his first sack. It's only preseason, but he'll remember that one. As a rider, Richie Leone pounds it through to tie this game. The Lemonator stirring it up, taking a sip tonight. Well, the winds of change swept through the prairies, did they not?
2 guys on that list, Shamad Chambers, Kendall Lawrence. Lawrence is not going to play in this one, but both former Edmonton Eskimos. Otha Foster as well. There's Justin Capicotti from Ottawa. Back-to-back big years for Capicotti out of SFU, but you can see how he's rebuilt his D-line. Sean Lemon, Eric Norwood.
Ryan Langford peeling back. Tripped up, brought down. So back come the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And once again, BJ Coleman, who's thrown a pick in this ball game.
Big year for Shamad Chambers, a guy who's been around now for some time, 4 years in the Canadian Football League, 27 years old. He's right in that prime time. I mean, time for him. He's had some injury issues, but if he can have a healthy season, I know he has all the talent and skill to get to that 1,000-yard mark. He's going to be pushed and has been pushed a little bit by Nick Dembski in his second year.
Former Stampeder Matt Walter buries his helmet, maybe has a yard. You know, you talk about all the changes. There's a penalty flag on the far side. And so many teams with so many changes. It was hard in the offseason to keep track, particularly around free agent frenzy. But this is a team here in Saskatchewan. After a 3-15 season, they basically cleaned house.
Procedure, Saskatchewan, illegal formation, no end. That penalty is declined, second down.
Well, Chris Jones on defense, you mentioned, and that's his area of expertise. Only one returning starter. He's a good one, Jeff Knox Jr., who won't play tonight, but like we said, is rebuilding that defense. And Sean Lemon's helping and will help in that regard in a big, big way.
And definitely is a new era of football in Regina. Darian Durant, of course, is the starting quarterback. Won't play tonight. Coleman stands in. That should have been caught. John Childs has been the intended target a couple of times, and Childs would want that back.
I like this decision by Chris Jones to have Darian Durant warmed up, is dressed with the team, has the headset on so he'll hear the calls, but not have him part of the first preseason game at all. He will not see the field tonight. Chris Jones has got to figure out who number 2 is going to be, and he wants to give those guys the opportunity in this preseason game to go out and win the job.
Speaking of number 2, Chris Rainey is back for the BC Lions, and over their shoulder catch. This guy can go. Brings it back about 10 yards on a 55-yard kick with just over 5 minutes to go in this preseason game in Regina. 3-3 Lions and the Roughriders. Well, we talked about the changes in Saskatchewan, really around the league. So many changes, including the BC Lions.
A couple of former Riders there. Keith Price, of course, we talked off the top, that have joined the Lions. Levy Adcock, Anthony Allen, who won't play tonight, a little bit nicked. Jeremiah Johnson will play some at running back. Of course, Nick Moore from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, a big free agent signing for them a couple of years ago, but a former BC Lion as well. And of course, it's going to take a while to get used to. No Andrew Harris in the back of the BC Lion offense.
Saw Andrew the other night for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers now. And there's Wally back at it. Told me yesterday that he had no intention of becoming a head coach once again, but wanted to fulfill his obligation. David Braley, the owner, and said, you know, I'm going to do the best that I can as the all-time winningest coach. Go back to the sideline, and he says it's all about winning. Regain the culture, and you know, probably he's been chomping at the bit the last couple of years because he's watched his team since they won the Grey Cup not be able to get there.
Well, 2011 he went up and became the GM, and the Orange Helmet Awards this year I was the MC of that event.
Number 1, 5-yard penalty, remains first down.
Excellent event to raise money for amateur football in the province, and I had some fun with Coach Bono because I said, you know, he left in 2011, 5 years later, and 2 coaches, Mike Benavides and Jeff Tedford. He's finally found the coach he likes, and it's Wally Bono.
He looked in the mirror.
He looked in the mirror. He said, okay, I finally found one.
All right, and he's been so close to it for such a long time.
I got a little bit of a smile at the Orange Helmet Awards.
I even chatted with Wally yesterday about, you know, how different is it this time? He says things are different. He said,
BC,
and I said,
59.
I'm soft. And he says, I'm always soft. I mean, I'm a hard. But they have allowed some music now and warm up in training camp, which he did it before. And he's given what he calls the cell phone break or Twitter break every once in a while. He said that's a little bit different from the last time. He said he gives the players a 10-minute break to go check their phones. But he says things are a little bit different. But the thing is, it hasn't changed. Football.
Yeah. And the BC Lions are in great hands. And that goes without saying when you take a look at his resume.
Wally World has returned. Well, the BC Lions return to winning ways on the West Coast. Price off the back foot. Oh, that should have been caught. Brett Blasco, their draft pick.
Draft pick this year, and boy, he's going to remember that one. This is just a real simple out. A really good throw here from Keith Price. Rolling to his left, finding that soft spot in the zone defense, and just didn't look it in.
They hurry it up, 2nd and 10. Blasco, a 3rd-round pick on a Calgary. And down goes Price once more.
Part of the strategy here from Wally Bono to start Keith Price was to take a look at the Saskatchewan defense. Tyree Hollins comes off the edge, really one of the few returning defenders for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Jeff Knox Jr., the other, as we mentioned, won't be playing tonight. Just trips up Keith Price as he tried to escape out the left side of that formation. But Wally Bono wanted to see what Chris Jones was going to throw at him. Put Keith Price's, and then we're going to see Jonathan Jennings and Travis Lule as the game goes on.
Leone again. Big foot. Once again, it's Marquez Clark. Central Oklahoma going nowhere.
New quarterback for Saskatchewan. I mentioned B.J. Coleman and Brett Smith are fighting to back up, be the number 2 quarterback behind Darian Durant. And they will split reps in this game tonight against the Lions. Brett Smith, 8 starts last year. A couple of times threw for over 200 yards.
So Smith's got some time here with 3 minutes to go in the opening quarter. They bring it around here for Childs. Adam Bighill with another flag on the play, who, by the way, doesn't have the other part of that dynamic duel, Solomon Elimimian, back
BC.
in BC. And good to have Solly back after his injury last year, another Achilles injury.
114 tackles. The outstanding defensive player in the Canadian Football League in Adam Bighill. And he's got his running mate beside him again, and Solomon Elimimian. Lost last year due to an Achilles injury.
Smith now. Quick hitter, but that one was out of sync, looking for Rob Bagg.
Well, B.J. Coleman wants another crack at it. You can bet a couple high throws. He's got the interception, one to T.J. Lee on a throw that was too high. 3 of 8, 58 of the 68 yards on that one play to Rob Bagg. A little swing pass, and Bagg got all those yards after the catch.
B.J. Coleman's first outdoor game since 2013. He played indoor football last year with the Arizona Rattlers.
First 2 throws from Brett Smith look a little high, too.
Smith and is in trouble. Now he escapes, and Brett Smith better check it away. Smith still on his feet. Look out. He is pummeled. He draws a penalty as Brett Smith pulled a Darian Durant. That's what Darian used to do here, that escapability. But Brent Smith is worse for it.
Major foul.
He took a major hit.
BC 29. 15-yard penalty. Automatic. First down.
Stephen Clark put him in his crosshairs, and Brent Smith got the penalty, and as he just heaved the football. By all accounts, he should have been down about 5 seconds earlier.
Look at the hit here from Stephen Clark, because Brett Smith escapes here, gets outside. It looked to me like Clark tried to get his head out of the contact zone.
There's Matt Walter again. Rumbles left side. Matt Walter is dependable.
Just to see the end of that play again, Rod, because Clark took the penalty here, and I thought he just shouldered him. And keep in mind, Brett Smith is out and basically a runner at that point. He doesn't have the protection of the pocket the quarterback's out.
2nd and 1. And not sure if he got there. Like Brett Smith got some forward momentum, but then was pushed back. Had to get to the 31. It looks like they're going to give him a first down on the mark. Good spot for him. Look at the block here by Thad Coleman.
Yeah, Thaddeus Coleman coming back now. You can't. Part of the rule changes is there's no peel back low blocks. But you can hit him up high, and that's a big one.
Craig Rowe. Thaddeus Coleman, another one of the acquisitions from Chris Jones, bringing him here. Big body. 1st and 10. Smith again going up high. This time is Childs. Decided to get it off the tree, and he does. Going up high and bringing it down.
Brett Smith looks a little antsy in the pocket. Ball a little bit high, and his receiver bails him out here. The veteran, John Childs, just wins this fight for the football. Adam Bighill had his hands on it as well. It turns it into a 12-yard gain. That's where receiver wins the one-on-one.
Well, John Childs dropped one earlier, not that time. Got to the highest point, hauled it in. Inside the red zone now. Here's the rush again. Smith steps up again. In pursuit, decides to take off, and he's crushed once more. Brett Smith's going, really? Preseason? But when you're in a fight for a job, you got to put it all in the line. That's the final play of the first quarter, a 7-point game. 2 field goals on the board here. Preseason football in Regina tonight. Roughriders and BC Lions getting ready for the 2016 season. Regular season a couple weeks away. Saskatchewan Roughriders and BC Lions tied at 3 here.
You look at those numbers, especially on the left column, you would say, what is it? It's preseason. Yeah, preseason game 1. You know, a lot of penalties, 11 penalties in that first quarter, some sloppy play. The BC Lions offensively are averaging, I think, -1 yard on first down, so struggling offensively. Not surprising against Chris Jones. And I think 2 Saskatchewan quarterbacks look a little nervous in BJ Coleman and Brett Smith.
How did you approach preseason football? A little bit different now. They get 2 tests before the regular season. There is a lot of evaluation, quite obviously, but obviously Wally Buono and Chris Jones also have a pretty good idea of who their main guys are going to be.
They do, but then there's that, and I'm calling them the Google player. The player that in a preseason game has such a big game, everyone goes and Googles him.
Who is that guy? And where was he from? In fact, I think we might have Googled a couple today. Walter goes left side up to the 10, just barely gets to that line of scrimmage.
Well, that game that you did, you and Dwayne did, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Tim Flanders, who, you know, again, former BC Lion, wasn't really in good enough shape when he was in BC and gets cut, goes to Winnipeg. And that preseason game he was the Google player in that game and gets that much closer to a roster spot. Now it's up to who's going to take the job at quarterback in the backup spot for Brett Smith or BJ Coleman.
Well, here's the thing, too, for a player. You know, you can try a little too much at times. You could lose your position. Rosters are paired to 65 on Tuesday. You want to stick around for the next one for sure, and you never know. Here's Tyler Capina now. It's a little chip shot. 18-yarder for a diminutive kicker. Puts it through. 6-3 Saskatchewan. Let's go down to the sideline and join Lee Jones.
Likely going to see Jonathan Jennings here for the BC offense. He has a pretty good relationship with Travis Lulay. In fact, Lulay and him were roommates in training camp in 2015. It was supposed to be John Beck with Travis Lulay, but Beck got sick, so Jennings was stuck with Lulay, a rookie. Talking to Lulay before the game, he talked about that was a little odd, but they really got to know each other on a personal level and really enjoyed their company. So now that they're battling for top spot, they already had the trust of each other, and therefore going into the situation they are this year as 1 and 2, things are pretty good between them, and there isn't any animosity between the 2 pivots. Guys?
It'll be interesting, though. You know, Jonathan Jennings is the starter, earned that right at the back half of last year. Lulay has had a tremendous camp by all accounts. No problems with his throwing shoulder, making every throw on the field. If he has a big preseason in both games, there'll be people asking, which guy do you start in game 1 of the regular season? The future in John Jennings or Travis Lulay, the former MOP?
Here's Chris Rainey. Picks his way near the 41-yard line.
Jonathan Jennings' first game coming off the bench was against the Calgary Stampeders. He threw 3 picks in that game, but then Jennings came back hard and threw for over 2,000 yards. 6 starts for Jennings. He was 3-3, but he in his first 3 starts averaged over 300 yards passing. This kid can spin it. He reminds me a little bit of Russell Wilson for the Seattle Seahawks. Maybe not quite as thick as Wilson physically, but same kind of quarterback.
Almost picked on his first pass attempt in the preseason. Right in the midst of Marquise Drayton.
Look at that average right there. The first 3 starts for John Jennings, over 300 yards passing. And you're looking at 9 touchdown throws to 3 interceptions. That has got the BC fan base pretty fired up about Jonathan Jennings. And he's the starter right now, no question. But what if Lulay has a huge preseason? Do you go with the young kid, Or do you go back to your veteran in Travis Lule, who's had a great camp?
Remain second down.
It's a very good question, Mr. Suter. I'll leave that one up to Mr. Buono. Although, you know, I can understand, and you look at a guy like Travis Lule, been there, done that, won that. But, you know, the injuries, the shoulder.
Well, I tell you, and you can't have this work for your team unless you have the right character people involved. And both Jonathan Jennings and Travis Lule are those guys.
Yeah, they are. Shoulder injury, then the knee injury. Riders rush 3. Look at Jennings now. Look out now. Jennings again gets away. And Jonathan Jennings shows you why he has become a bona fide star at a very tender age, by the way, just 23 years old. And not many guys are able to do what he does so quickly. He picked it up so quickly last year.
Well, you can see, first of all, the escapability, again, like Russell Wilson of the Seahawks, but he does it with his eyes downfield and great poise. He's not running, panicking right now. He's running with his eyes downfield. Now, his receivers didn't help him. They've got to come up and open up and find a spot in the field. He can get rid of that football, but see the composure from a young Jennings.
Ricky Collins is the rider back. Will receive this kick at his 28. He's got some room here. Tries to kick it outside. Collins smothered and knocked out of bounds near the 48 into the Saskatchewan bench. 19-yard return. Football is returned, preseason style in Saskatchewan. Well, it's here. 2016 season, 12 days away, June 23rd. Thursday night football. Tiger Cats take on the Argos at BMO Field. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific across the TSN network and on 4K. For more information on 4K and channel listings, visit tsn.ca/4K. Presented by The Brick.
Ricky Ray apparently having an outstanding camp for the Toronto Argonauts. Chad Owens no longer an Argo.
Which is almost hard to believe. It's almost like Weston Dressler no longer a Rider. The winds have changed. I have one concern when it comes to the opening night at BMO Field. I just want to make sure I don't over tailgate before that game, because you tailgate
we're calling it.
Yeah, but you tailgate before every game.
Well,
but your tailgate's just a little bit different than the average fan. A little milk.
You know, this has been a soapbox I've been on for some time, that our country can start tailgating from coast to coast at football games, and good for BMO and the Argos to get it done, and it's going to be a lot of fun around that building. I just got to get myself to the booth.
I just say, you know, you could probably do it right from there, right from the tailgate. That could be a first. There's Terrence Cobb in at running back now for the Roughriders. By the way, they played at BMO Field today, a preseason game, and the Argos beat the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Score really less important than the evaluation process for these players. I mean, especially young guys, you've got to see what these guys can do when the lights are on. And you can be a monster practice player and then get out here game day and all of a sudden disappear.
Look out. Smith again dodges another and is chased down and brought down. Alex Bazzi tracks down Brett Smith. Again, penalty flags strewn across the field.
For Alex Bazzi's rookie year 2 years ago, he just exploded on the scene. He's that defensive end that can redirect.
Saskatchewan, number 67. Illegal contact on a receiver, BC. Those penalties will balance. Repeat down, first down.
The last BC Lion as a rookie to have 10 sacks or more was Cameron Wake. By the way, Cameron Wake was the guest speaker at the Orange Helmet Awards and was outstanding. Still wears his BC Lion flip-flops in the shower with the Miami Dolphins.
Well, I would hope he would. Good luck for him. And Cam Wake has become an unbelievable football player down south as well, and he was when he was up north. And
Alex Bazzi can be that guy. He can redirect.
Player who had all started here. How about that spin around? Handoff to Cobb. Adam Bighill brings him down.
Well, two linebackers not in the lineup for BC that'll get a ton of well, one the starter and Solomon Elamimian in the middle, and then the other guy getting a ton of reps will be Bo Lacombo. Both have been left back in Vancouver. You think when you put those three linebackers together, you sprinkle in a nickel in different packages with Stephen Clark or whoever wins that job, well, you're looking at maybe the best linebacking core in the game.
5 minutes gone, second quarter. 2nd and 3 for Smith and the Riders. Back to Cobb again. First down again. He's dragged down by Deshaun Davis out of Syracuse.
Outstanding defensive player. 2015, 121 total tackles for Adam Bighill. 401 in his career. And that's 81 games. I mean, you want to make plays, you hustle. Watch Adam Bighill away from the football when you're watching him live, if you're a young player.
4 receivers wide for Smith. Looks there. Now, behind his scrum, no one home. Holding call coming. So this is not going to matter. As Brett Smith was afforded that time after a hold in the backfield.
You know, the one thing that I think you know of Brett Smith and Chris Jones watching Brett Smith last year from the other sideline, he knows he can escape and he knows he can run. What he needs to see.
Saskatchewan, number 58, 10-yard penalty, remains first down.
What Chris Jones needs to see is if Brett Smith can run the passing offense. I mean, can he sit in the pocket, make his read, find the receiver he needs to throw it to and get rid of it. I think both these quarterbacks for Saskatchewan looked a little bit nervous. Brett Smith won't settle his feet. He's a little hesitant to pull the trigger, bopping around, and Chris Jones knows he can escape and run. He's good at that.
Got to throw it. 1 for 2 right now. Still hangs on and then throws it off to Cobb. Went through his reads and then went back to his outlet.
But even that is a positive step, because you're right. He's still jumping and popping around in the pocket a little bit, not settled in there. But he took a look to the wide side of the field, the right for him, and then went to his check down out of the backfield because he didn't like what he saw. That's a good positive step in the read progressions. But he's got to settle his feet a little bit.
Brett Smith, who again got some playing time. You might think he would be the incumbent as a backup, but the battle is on for backup here. Again, there he goes, spinning and twisting and loses the football. And the Lions can't scoop it up. The Riders get it back. But again, Chris Best able to recover. Brett Smith takes another hit and gives a shot to the BC Lion walking by. Mike Edom, the free safety.
Darius Allen for the BC Lions, newcomer for the Lions up front. He's going to get the strip, the fumble, caused fumble. Got knocked down, got up, and just kept coming, kept chasing.
There's Rainey again. But there's a penalty flag on the play, on the kick. Looks like it's offside, so we'll step aside now. 7.5 minutes left, second quarter. 6-3 Saskatchewan. Well, the CFL college draft, of course, in the offseason. Here's what the BC Lions did, Glenn Suter.
Well, 5th pick overall, they took Charles Valancourt, and he has come as advertised. I had a good conversation with Wally Buono about Valancourt and said he's pushing for a starting job, the offensive line. We've got some veterans up there, so it'll be tough, but playing very well.
Longest field for the Lions. Out of the backfield is Jeremiah Johnson, former Ottawa Red Black.
6'3", 329 pounds, out of Laval. 5th pick overall, and Valancourt has had a tremendous training camp. We've got a couple of veterans in Hunter Stewart and Kirby Fabian. It's going to be tough for him to crack the starting lineup. Well, Wally Buono told us today that he's pushing him and he's close.
Many Rouge or through just getting out of trouble. And making the catch is Brian Burnham.
This throw is what impressed me most, and I think a lot of football fans, is this throw from Jonathan Jennings. Just when receiver gets past that first level, the linebacking core, Jonathan Jennings puts it on him immediately. There's really very little air under that ball. He throws that as well as anyone.
This one's knocked down. Riders come blazing. No chance that time. Jennings got it away, but Lemon was in. So were a number of others. Marcus White. Oh, they'll hurry up here. No huddle, 2nd and 10. Jennings with time now. That one sails into the BC bench.
Manu Arsenault, the only BC Lion receiver last year, over 1,000 yards. We probably won't see much more of him. That was likely his last series, or maybe he finishes the 2nd quarter. But BC Lions have got to try and find another 1,000-yard receiver to complement Manny Arsenault. The Manny show is intact.
You never have a lot of drama early in the series of the Manny show, but it takes a while to build up, does it? 50-yard boot. Ricky Collins meets up with his scrum. Brett Smith brings his offense back out, leading 6-3. With the worst record last year, the Saskatchewan Roughriders had the #1 overall pick in the 2016 draft. Has yet to report here.
Josiah St. John is at a contract impasse with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Chris Jones will not talk about it any longer. He's talking about the players that he does have in training camp. St. John is his agent. Are looking for more money, and the Riders are at the limit.
There's Nick Dembski. His 2nd year with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Close to a 1st down. They bring in a new set of receivers for Brett Smith this time.
Josiah St. John, I mean, the door is still open for him, and the contract negotiations can kick in again. They're going tempo now, short yardage. But, you know, Chris Jones has been asked about it. I mean, it stole a bunch of headlines over the last 4 or 5 days, and there were rumors that Josiah St. John and his agent asked for a trade. Those rumors are not true, according to the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
5-yard penalty becomes 1st down.
You know, and I think listening to guys like Darian Durant talk about it and Chris Jones, both have left the door open to continue negotiations. However, if they stay stalled, then maybe they do trade the #1 pick.
Not something that happens a whole lot. But when it does, it raises some eyebrows, certainly, on both ends of the spectrum. So the Riders get the 1st down here. There's Johnson again. Make that Cobb. Terrence Cobb.
I'll just wrap it up, you know, Rod, by saying that, you know, I'm not taking sides in the issue, of course, but, you know, I get that players, and you hope that players can make.
Saskatchewan, number 68, 10-yard penalty, remains 1st down.
You hope that players can make as much as they can. Certainly in the Canadian Football League, if you know you can get a little bit more money, good on you for doing it, and you hope that they get as much as they can. But my advice to St. John will be, come in, earn your spot, and then ask for more money.
Good advice. So the penalty takes it back, and now it's 1st and 20. Again, Cobb in the backfield with Smith. Sideline.
You know, and Matt Dunnigan, who, of course, we've had many a discussion about the quarterback position, our panel member, Hall of Famer. He's always told me that when quarterbacks are nervous and they overstride, take a little bit too big of a stride when they're letting go of the football, That's what causes it to go high and over the target.
Last pass intended for Kyle Kawamoto. His junior football in Okanagan.
Been a few high throws from Brett Smith and from B.J. Coleman.
See that a lot. Again, there's that turnaround. And handed it off to Cobb once more.
It's an interesting looking draw play to Cobb. A little spinorama from Brett Smith. Watch this play from the quarterback. Usually it's a 2 or 3 count. And then it's just a straight handoff, but he spun all the way around and almost gave it to him from behind. The ball from being behind the tailback.
Rainey is back again. And brought down by Matt Webster. 47-yard boot. 3-minute warning before halftime. Jonathan Jennings getting more reps tonight in this preseason game in Regina.
Rod Smith back in our studio getting set for halftime. Who stood out one way or the other for the Lions and Roughriders? We'll hear from Matt and Schultze on that, and highlights of 2 other preseason games. The Argos Ticats, also the Stamps and Eskimos, as we head back to Mosaic. Rod and Glenn, guys.
All right, thank you, Rod Smith. Jonathan Jennings, who once tried out with the Saskatchewan Roughriders back in 2014. Third-string quarterback, moved up to starter last year and moving into the backfield. Completely offside.
This guy is a mountain. Caesar Rayford.
Saskatchewan, number 91. 5-yard penalty. Remains.
Or it wasn't Rayford. It was 91.
He's the other mountain.
He's
another mountain.
The Twin Peaks.
The Twin Peaks. 6'5", 300.
Rayford we saw in warm-up, and I thought that was 94 when he first came off the line of scrimmage, and that guy blocks the sun.
Yeah, he does. Zito Vitale of Southwest Baptist. Trying to find a job north of the border. 1st and 5. Plowing up the middle, crashing away, Jeremiah Johnson.
You know, I talk about the help that Manny Arsenault needs for this BC Lion offense to click, and it's got to come from one of these 2 Canadian receivers, or maybe one of the 3. Marco Iannuzzi did not make the trip. He's a little nicked, but that was Sean Gore, the slot back spot.
Big arm here. Speaking of which, there he is, Manny Arsenault.
Oh yeah. Build up a little Manny show in preseason. Manny starts in the slot back spot. 3 receivers to the short side of the field, which you don't see very often, but it's a straight go route, and again, throw right on the money. 46-yarder from Jonathan Jennings to Manny Arsenault.
So the Manny Arsenault show heats up. Manny show has 1, and into the end zone is Sean Gore. Touchdown. And Jonathan Jennings.
Teams that play the BC Lions, and Jonathan Jennings keeps his starting job, and there's no reason why he won't. They've got to defend this seam route. He throws it on time and on line as well as anybody, and Sean Gore, he's poised to have a big year. It's an important year for Sean Gore or Stephen Adekulu, Marco Iannuzzi, one of these Canadian receivers. The last Canadian receiver in BC to have 1,000 yards was Paris Jackson.
Seems like so long ago. 2-point converts. Lions numbers from last year. Jennings, lob toss, and penalty flag again.
Well, people may be questioning why you would go for 2 in this situation. Wally Buono making the call, and just to get reps in the preseason. It's another offensive play run by your starting quarterback.
Saskatchewan, number 29, half distance to goal. Retry the convert.
You saw Kendrick Ings, the target. This is a guy they've been talking about. They say he is a burner. Wally Buono, Kahari Jones talking before the game, talked about him. Dev Brown as well. There's Ings, number 82. Smallish receivers, but can they go? Another try for 2 here. What an impressive drive set up by Manny Arsenault's catch from Jonathan Jennings, and then the Sean Gore touchdown. And Jennings, in this sequence, looked like the Jonathan Jennings we saw last year.
There were 4 games last year. Now, Sean Gore's had some injury issues as well, but there were 4 games last year where he did not have a catch. I mean, Sean Gore has all the tools in the toolbox to be a 1,000-yard receiver. He's got to stay healthy. Here's your 2-point convert. But if he can get up to that 1,000-yard mark, Manny Arsenault, the Manny show continues, and now your passing game's rolling.
To Mama, love y'all.
And he's certainly capable.
Good catch,
Former Bishop's Gator, there's Manny Arsenault, and maybe after that drive we might see those two even shut down now. Some of the other receivers getting a look. That's what happens in the second half. Guess what? Bring out the program, because you're going to see a lot of players
in these games. Yeah, especially the first preseason game. Like I said, probably don't see some of the veterans in the second half.
Leone will reset the ball on the tee in this preseason game tonight. Regular season beginning in a couple weeks. Saskatchewan has a bye the first week. BC opens up against the Calgary Stampeders at home. Ford wearing number 1. Number made famous by Corey Sheets a few years ago. So BJ Coleman is coming back out. The guy who started the game will end the first half.
You got right.
You can talk about the substitutions that go in the preseason. That also makes it difficult for the quarterbacks if they don't have maybe the starting O-line in front of them or the starting receiving core that they're working with. All the substitutions, difficult to find chemistry. But they got to make something happen, make a play.
BJ Coleman connects with Shea Hodge. Knocked his helmet up flying, and let's go down to the sideline where Lee Jones is.
Thanks, Rod. You mentioned earlier that B.J. Coleman played in the Arena Football League in 2015. That was his last start in May, and then he decided to leave the game of football. He quit the team, deciding that he was going to take a job in corporate sales. He thought it was too good of an opportunity to pass up. So why did he return? Well, he says you have to step away from the game to sometimes remember how much you love it. And once he got the call from Chris Jones to come up to Saskatchewan, he said he didn't even think about it twice. He joined them. Guys.
Thanks, Lee, trying to earn a job here once again. This time the helmet stays on Hodge, and it looks like it's close to a first down.
You know, and I've seen a different B.J. Coleman since he's returned. I mean, he goes to the sideline, settles himself down a little bit, maybe loses some butterflies. Look at that, nice step up and throw to the outside, short side of the field. Not a long throw, not a real difficult one, but he's showing a little more poise this time than he did when he started the game.
Well, think about where he's come from. Again, he hasn't had an outdoor game since 2013. Played at Tennessee at Chattanooga. Was a 7th-round pick by the Green Bay Packers in the NFL. And then Arena Football all last year until he went to corporate sales. Terrence Cobb rumbles forward.
University of Tennessee Chattanooga is not far from where Chris Jones lives.
You know that's right. You know that's right. Well,
and you know, Chris Jones does a lot of recruiting and scouting in that area. In fact, this football team in the offseason looked at almost 3,000 players. Almost 3,000.
That's why Chris Jones has won 4 Grey Cups with 4 different teams. And the far side. Once again, BJ's found some comfort with Hodge. Connection here. 47 seconds remain before halftime. Move the yardsticks once again. B.J. Coleman. And that's picked up. And off to the races. And no
veteran Ronnie Yell gets the tip. Didn't see the intended target there. Langford, I believe, was this ball just thrown just a tad out in front of him. He sat down on that curl. It's tipped up in the air, and then Ronnie Yell, the veteran of San Jose State, 3 years with the Lions, takes it back to the house.
51-yard interception return for Ronnie Yell. So B.J. Coleman had that drive going nicely, and then Aaron toss.
It almost looked like he felt his receiver was going to slide out to the sideline a little bit more and threw it to that spot. Langford sat down on the curl, and that's caused the problem.
So that's the second pick thrown by Coleman. That one for a touchdown, Richie Leone. Puts it through. 10 points for the BC Lions off of Saskatchewan turnovers.
Take a look at this curl route, just see if there was a communication issue or was it just an errant throw. And it looked like Langford does a little curl there. Yeah, no, he just ran a straight curl. There was a lot of heat on it. It was outside, high and wide, and the ball tipped right to Ronnie Yell. But in that series, B.J. Coleman, for the first couple of throws, looked like he was settling in a little bit better. Now that's going to mess with his confidence.
We saw that. Let's get a return. Heavy sigh from B.J. Coleman. This is not easy. 25 seconds left before halftime.
Leader in that secondary for the BC Lions is back in Vancouver, and Ryan Phillips didn't make the trip. I think Wally Buono knows what Ryan Phillips is capable of, and he has made the football team.
Well, Ronnie Yell does what Ronnie Yell normally does, and there's Ford bringing it up near the 25-yard line. Ronnie Yell had 2 interceptions in 2014. 2 went back for touchdowns. He had 2 interceptions last year, and 1 went back to the house. When he gets a pick, he usually takes it back.
Hey, Rod, they're popping down there. The pads are popping right now. I mean, this is preseason, and guys are trying to make the football team. Watch this special team after the touchdown by Ronnie Yell. Some good hitting going right down there in the point of attack. Got to make something happen. Get the coach's attention.
Trying to get a spot on the roster. Jeremiah Johnson with 15 seconds left to make that Terrence Cobb once again.
Yeah, I counted 11 veterans that the BC Lions left in Vancouver. Not all of them necessarily starters, but veteran players, and Ryan Phillips will once again be the leader of this secondary. Phillips with 46 career interceptions.
Terrence Cobb once again. 43 yards in his first half. And that's the final play of the opening 2 quarters here in this preseason game. B.J. Coleman, couple of picks. Ronnie Yell, big play. Interception for a touchdown. BC Lions open it up with an 18-6 lead here in Regina. Let's send it back to the studio, and here's Rod Smith.
Thank you, Rod Black. So the score suddenly strongly favoring the BC Lions, but hey, this is preseason football, and as Glenn had talked about, it's about players trying to land jobs. It's big for them. Back with the panel of Matt Dunnigan and Chris Schultz. Let's face it, Chris Jones and Wally Buono. They've been coaching a long time, especially Wally back on the sideline again after 5 years away. They know the players they want to keep. Score aside, Matty, I mean, who has stood out? Individuals trying to make this team, the good and the bad. What stood out for the Lions and Riders for you?
Well, you mentioned the Lions asserting themselves in the second quarter. That's because Jennings was playing, and, he's going to Arsenault, he's going to Gore, he's going to veteran players. He decided between man and zone, which is a good thing for a young quarterback to detect. But, I'm watching B.J. Coleman, and his kid's a perfect example of what's going on out there right now, Schultz, is hesitation. Learning the game, the real bullets are flying, Practice one thing, game speed's another. B.J. Coleman's, he could be having that apple on a roadmap question or window.
You want to explain that one?
Right, and that just it's not good, right?
That's like the window of the aisle question, right?
Window of the aisle, apple on a roadmap, get down the road. But geez, the opportunity is so fleeting for these guys.
Individuals, but also collectively a team. Great optimism I saw from the Saskatchewan Roughriders on defense because there was 3 sequence of plays, and you saw these type of plays in this game, and you rarely saw them last year at all. Remember, this is a defense for Saskatchewan that was 12th last in different categories, 12 categories on defense where they were dead last. But to see the pass rush come together, to see the heavy tackles, to see the work within the defense and the speed and the decisiveness, it does bring some optimism. BC Lions played their best football the last 3 minutes, but that first quarter, Rough Riders played good football.
Yeah, we talked about Coleman and about Brett Smith as well, who's had action before. Darian Durant dressed, but not expected to play in this game. And, of course, backup quarterback in Saskatchewan the last 2 years has been a very important thing because of Darian Durant not being able to play very long at all because of injury. Coming up, 2 other games of the preseason slate to get to, including the much-anticipated debut at BMO Field for the Argos as they hosted the Ticats this afternoon. BC leading Saskatchewan at the half. Toronto Argonauts move to BMO Field for 2016.
It's a much more intimate environment.
Providing fans with the opportunity to tailgate is part of football culture.
Fans have an opportunity to enjoy the sociable aspect of the game as well.
They get that feeling of this is their place. I can't wait to be here.
Before we look at this season, remember 2015 for the Toronto Argonauts when they had to play several games, home games on the road, starting with Fort McMurray, a couple in Hamilton, even played one in Ottawa as well, all considered home games. I mean, it was a difficult, challenging season for them, but they were looking ahead to now when they get to start at BMO Field. First preseason game. They made their debut today against the rival Hamilton Tiger Cats. They'll be playing for keeps in 12 days to start things out. Tailgating in full force as well, even inside the stadium, ready to bring in this new era of Argo football. And they will certainly like this on the opening drive. It wasn't led by Ricky Ray. It was Logan Kilgore finding a wide open Vidal Hazelton in the end zone for the Toronto touchdown. Wide open he was. That new turf, Hazelton. 6 touchdowns last season, 7-0 Toronto. Back come the Cats, though. Jeff Matthews airing it out for Taquan Underwood. He was pretty open as well as he scampers in a 50-yard score. But after, in the second half, the Argos ran away with it, and they won it 25-16 in a big day for fans at BMO.
It's been a long time coming for a lot of people, and I think our guys are thrilled to be here, proud of what they now have, and hopefully we'll represent it well. Even walking back and forth from the field, there's like fans, little kids are lining, high-fiving our players. It's a different vibe.
It's going to be a great atmosphere. I mean, it's going to be, an awesome venue to come down and watch a football game, and for us players, it's going to be a great place to call home.
I was surprised at how many people were there for a preseason game. They said it was going to be around 20,000 or so. I was surprised. They said, no, obviously I've never played here before. Ricky said it was one of the biggest crowds he's ever seen for a preseason game, so that's great.
That was earlier. Going on right now in Calgary, McMahon, it's the Eskimos and the Stampeders. Bo Levi Mitchell at the helm in the first series. Stamps QB 5 for 6, 56 yards passing, 20-yard gain to Joe West, and that led to a Calgary field goal. Mike Riley played 2 series for the Eskimos, completing 5 of 8 passes, 54 yards through the air, including this 12-yard completion to Nate Kuhorn. 9-6, the visiting Eskimos against the Stampeders, the team they beat in the Western Final with Riley and company en route to the Grey Cup and winning it with him being the Grey Cup MVP. Let's go back to that earlier game. I had a chance to drop in there before coming here to the studio to get ready, and yeah, it wasn't filled to capacity, Schultze, but there was a really good energy there for a preseason game. A lot more to be there, I'm sure, when the regular season begins on the 23rd. But hey, you guys both played for the Argos. I mean, and we saw what happened last year. What do you think this means to that Toronto football club?
I think it directly relates to winning and losing, because if you go through history, and I'll go way back to the Rogers Centre when it first opened, within 2 years, 3 years, we won a Grey Cup going into that new stadium. The advances with Ottawa and their refurbished stadium and how nice the atmosphere is there. They had one of their best seasons in a long time right then. Montreal, going from the Olympic Stadium to a smaller, more intimate venue. The only team that hasn't capitalized yet really on something new and original is the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But the aesthetics of the stadium, the closeness of the fans, the feel that they get, and the respect that they get, looking at that facility, it does make a difference between winning and losing because you are truly at home.
Yeah, we know it's important that, just Southern Ontario football and the Canadian Football League, viewership, and getting the Argos right, in this city. And there's no reason they shouldn't be now because they have that facility at BMO Field. A lot of work's been into that, much like the Hamilton Tiger Cat Schultz moved into Tim Horton Field 2 years ago. Both these teams, from the inside out, from the players and the staff and the coaches, they were just working with so much more than other teams, and it wasn't a level playing field. Now it is, and I'm happy for Scott Melendez, Jim Barker, and that football team. Not sure about Danny Webb and Bugsy, Tom Bryce, their equipment managers. Those are the guys there that are still working from Downsview to BMO Field. But these guys are going to be blessed to have a home they can call their own, and fans can. You saw a little tailgating going on. Looked like a good time there. Sue said he may over-tailgate over there, so we'll keep an eye on that.
As I say, this was strictly research for me. It wasn't about the tailgating. I just went to see a little bit, watch a little bit of football. Yeah, just reconnaissance mission there. Not going as a fan, not yet. But the fans, I'm sure, will be liking it there, and the fans of the BC Lions liking it so far for what the BC did late in that first half. In a preseason game against the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and they lead the way 18-6. We'll be back with the stats and more coming up here in the CFL on TSN. Rod Smith, Matt Dunnigan, Chris Schultz back in the studio now at the half at Mosaic. I should point out there is a power failure there, so we're still waiting to see if they get it restored and get the game going again at the half right now, 18-6, with a couple of late touchdowns by the BC Lions leading the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And we're going to continue to evaluate, once again, players, not the ones we obviously know, CFL veterans, those that we know can play the game, like Darian Durant, who's not expected to get in tonight. But who else has grabbed your eye among those in the bubble, those who might be playing for their teams this year?
Oh, I don't care if it's BJ Coleman or whether it's Smith out there right now. Every quarterback is going to benefit from a running game, and Terrence Cobb has really, I think, shown and taken advantage of the opportunities that he's been given. And, often, some of them are draws, right? In the second and long situations, and you get that. Defenses are giving you that. But he's also taken some, too, and he's showing some grit there, and I think that's important for Saskatchewan moving forward. Not to put it all on Darian Durant and the new receiving core, but to establish that line of scrimmage and develop a running game, because believe me, that's what Saskatchewan, to me, has always been about, is controlling that line of scrimmage, much like the Edmonton Eskimos over the years, Schultz.
One of the issues for Saskatchewan right now is Darian Durant and his continued health as a quarterback, because basically he has pretty well missed 2 full seasons of football. Now, injuries are inevitable in this sport. And what happens is a player gets injured, misses extended period of time. For 1 year, that's okay. For 2 years, it's understandable. But he's got to stay healthy, because coaches do lose faith in players' ability to stay healthy sometimes. And could Darian Durant, if he were to be injured, not saying that it'll happen, hopefully it will not, to find a backup quarterback for Saskatchewan is paramount, because history is not working on the side of Darian Durant right now.
Absolutely, and the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Last year, they thought they were good with Kevin Glenn, and Durant goes down in the first quarter of the game, and
it was in the first half,
and it was absolutely, oh no, he's done. And then, good backup plan, Kevin Glenn. This year, I don't think the Riders are in that position, because they don't have a Kevin Glenn who's arguably the best backup quarterback in the history of the Canadian Football League. Everywhere he's gone, people have leaned on him, and he's done a phenomenal job. Now he's a starter in Montreal. And I think Saskatchewan, you talk about Darian's health, is in a precarious situation right there. And they've got to find that guy. And that's why I mentioned the running game, trying to establish that line of scrimmage, trying to, get that physical mentality back up there and help any quarterback.
I'm glad I have the chance to ask this question, because we haven't talked about it yet. Look at Chris Jones becoming a head coach for the first time. When he leaves the Argos, he goes to Edmonton. That team had won only 5 games in just 2 years. Right. Well, in 1 year, they went to the division final, and the next year they win the Grey Cup. Understandably, when he takes over, expectations are now really surging in Saskatchewan. But he needed to make a lot of changes. What is realistic expectation for when this team can be a Grey Cup contender again?
Well, in football, that's a hard assessment to make, because so much of it is based on health and individual performances, especially from the quarterback position. But there's something about the players that he brings on a team that over a short period of time do gel. Because remember, he was the defensive coordinator with the Toronto Argonauts in the 100th Grey Cup, and they won it all. He's had great success in Calgary. He's had success in Montreal. He knows this league. He knows how to find players. And then basically, he just disciplines them to play a relatively simple system and truly to play an aggressive system. And he's been doing it for so long that just pure logic says that they'll be much better than 3-15. 500 year, I think, distinct possibility.
Oh, I'd be disappointed if they weren't over 500 with this coaching staff. Rod, in your show, around the table,
yes,
you know, if people watched that before this ball game, you know, it was phenomenal, and I absolutely love that show. But Dave Dickinson answered a similar question about difference in coaching and playing. It's not what the coach knows, it's what the players know. Believe me, Chris Jones and his staff, his entire staff he took from the Edmonton Eskimos, they believe that they can win a Grey Cup this year. But it's not what they know or what they believe in, it's what the players believe in. It took them only 2 years to get that right and that ship going in the right direction at Edmonton, and they won it all. They got beat up by Calgary 2 years ago. Last year, they dominated Calgary in the big games, and they got to the big show, and they won it all. I think Chris Jones and his staff, they can win it this year. It's just how quickly that team can believe in themselves and gel together, learn these systems, and move forward.
Okay, which leads me to the other side of things.
Right.
When Wally Buono was last a head coach, the BC Lions won. Travis Lulay 2011 when they beat Winnipeg. With that 5-year gap, I mean, how long do you think it's going to take Wally Buono to get it back as a head coach again?
Because of his experience, it will not take long. The big thing about Coach Buono is he makes players extremely accountable. He makes them aware that this is professional football, which means you are paid a professional wage to perform. And players go into it with a little bit more, not necessarily of a fear attitude, but an urgency attitude. Even in this game, we were commenting that BC just seems more confident. They seem a little bit more aggressive. You saw some of the defensive backs yipping and yapping. You didn't see that very much.
Right.
You just didn't see that visual evidence of confidence, and you've already seen it in one exhibition game.
And things looking better for Wally Buono. You know, a preseason game such as it is, good plays by Jennings and Arsenault and Ronnie Yell as well, and BC has a lead with a power failure at the half at Mosaic Stadium in Regina. We'll be back. Rod Black and Glenn Suter for the second half.
All right, thank you so much. The lights are on, and we are back after an hour-long delay. Jonte Bear brings the ball back, and it's going to be very interesting, Glenn Suter, to see what happens now with rotations. You've seen a lot of stuff. We've been around the league a long time. You played in it. You broadcast in it. That was rather interesting, to say the least. Yeah. And an auspicious beginning to the farewell season at Mosaic.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it? But, you know, in fact, you talked to Wally Buono before the game about this, and Buono said, hey, if the power goes out tonight, my shoes are bright enough to light up the whole park. Well, that didn't quite happen.
You knew where he was? Wally. Here we go.
BJ Coleman resumes as we resume here.
But in all honesty, you take a look at two young quarterbacks, BJ Coleman and Brett Smith for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. They had an hour in there now to think about their first half, to go over some of the plays that they ran, to take I mean, it was dark in the locker rooms as well, so it wasn't about film work, but just to settle themselves down, maybe get rid of the butterflies. Maybe they settle in now. They had to warm up again and get loose.
They had a lot of time. They could have played some video games on their cell phones. Clarence Denmark made his first catch as a Saskatchewan Roughrider, a 6-yarder. Good time here for Coleman to the far side, up near the 40-yard line. And once again, Denmark. And Clarence Denmark is likely going to play a big part in this offense for the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Well, no question. 30 years old, 18 games with the Bombers last year, and was just shy of 1,000 yards, just over 700. But remember, last year with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, no Drew Willie in the lineup. It was almost a quarterback audition for the receiving corps there. So, yeah, they're expecting big things from Clarence Denmark.
So, again, resuming here in the third quarter after an hour-long delay. Preseason game, and on the far side, it's Ryan Langford, who's been doing some returning, making his first catch. 18-6, BC Lions leading after a couple of scores in that first half. Ronnie Yell on a interception, touchdown, pick 6. Sean Gore also scoring for the Lions.
Tough for these guys to get their heads back in the game.
No kidding.
Get there mentally, loosen up, do all the stretching. There was about a 15-20 minute stretch period when they knew the lights were starting to work their way back on.
Terrence Cobb.
But Rod, the guys talked about it in the studio, talking about
we couldn't hear them for about an
right
hour.
At the end, I heard the end. But they talked about how important it is for especially some of the young kids that are trying to make this lineup. Start, get the paycheck, and their families are involved. Their livelihood is involved. They need these 2 quarters to go out there and try to make plays. They got to get their head back in it quickly.
Terrence Cobb had a good first half. And this time it's Coleman going with a little assistance, a push by Cobb. Matt Dunnigan at the beginning of this game, you know what he said in Studio 2? That might have been a harbinger. He said, we need our own show. The studio crew, and they got an hour-long show.
So you're saying that Dunnigan pulled the plug?
Somebody pulled the plug around here, and I'm not sure who it was. The night the lights went out at Mosaic.
I thought it was a bit much when you were doing squat thrusts right here in the booth just to try and warm up and get ready.
That wasn't a squat thrust.
Oh, okay.
Just want to let you know that. This is Cobb once more into the scrum. But in all seriousness, I mean, there was a thought, as we were hearing reports, that, their potential could have been, had it gone any longer, that they may not have been able to finish this game. And that would have been a real detriment to both teams a preseason. Wally Buono talking about evaluation, getting a sneak peek at his team, coming back on the sideline after 5 years. Chris Jones just getting a look at his brand new team.
No question. The evaluation process so important. Just 2 preseason games, as Matt Dunnigan mentioned, and these coaches would have lost 2 quarters.
Coleman looks so much more poised, though, than he did in that first half.
Well, his first couple series, nervous, real high throws. We've seen little glimpses of a couple good throws, and then, again, he goes back to that overstride and the ball sailing over the receiver's head. So, they're showing their inexperience, certainly B.J. Coleman, and I won't be surprised at all to see Brett Smith back in the lineup and on the field.
There's the big kick down to Rainey again. And Rainey can't avoid number 77, Jordan Reeves, making his Rider debut, the son of Willard Reeves. And guess who's coming into the ball game? Travis Lulay in a moment. Well, we went dark tonight. Just at halftime, a power failure, but an hour long. Thank God for cell phone lights. I thought you were at the Garth Brooks concert,
well,
right?
I thought he might have played a slow song in Saskatoon, and they heard it here. Then, we got just over an hour. Good job, Sask Powell, getting us up and running again. And
thank goodness we're back. Football back. Lights are back on. Travis Lulay is back at the helm. Jeremiah Johnson gets the handoff from Lulay, and so it's been a challenge for Travis Lulay the last couple of seasons. Of course, the shoulder injury, the surgery, then the knee last year. And through it all, Travis Lulay has not lost his confidence.
No, he hasn't. And all reports are that he has looked outstanding in training camp. You go back to 2011, 2012, Lulay-led Lions were 23-11 those 2 years. Of course, a championship in 11.
So he comes in after Jonathan Jennings had some reps. Lulay out of the backfield, and Johnson with some dropsy.
Would have had first down with a step or two had he hung on to that. Jonathan Jennings played the second quarter. You're just joining us. Wally Buono started the game with Keith Price at quarterback to see what Chris Jones would do defensively. Went to his starter and Jennings in the second quarter, and now we're getting a look for the first time in 2016 of Travis Lulay.
So the big foot of Richie Leone with Kadarius Ford back. Leone's going to give up 2 here. Kind of tiptoeing for a moment.
Well, I thought Leone thought about maybe trying to run for that first down. He saw the open side. He comes out and goes back. It's a safety.
So put 2 on the board.
Let's go, guys. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Get off the field. Let's go.
And we'll be back. Under the heading, we've got the power. Finally, let's go down to Lee Jones.
Yeah, quick update on what happened as a result that caused that. Just after the first half happened, a confetti cannon was shot towards some power lines just outside the stadium behind the scoreboard. As a result, it blew a couple of fuses, and as a result, we've been about an hour of a bit of a blackout here at Mosaic Stadium. They're able to get things fixed, allow the players to warm up and get going back in the game. The good news is that in a new stadium, the new Mosaic Stadium next year, they have on-site generators, large generators, so that if there's a power outage, they can actually power the whole stadium by themselves. So next year, guys, no blackout.
Well, thank you so much, Lee. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, or perhaps that's good news, but while this stadium was in the dark, looked outside and
the new stadium was all lit up.
They had lights on. We could have moved everybody over there early.
Just make that announcement. Can everyone please move to the new stadium?
Well, they're excited here to move to that new stadium.
Oh, absolutely.
It is going to be a sight to behold next year. So the Riders, 18-8 the score now for that safety touch. Terrence Cobb once again.
It's going to be mixed emotions for fans at the old Mosaic Stadium in its final year as they make the transition and move over to this beautiful state-of-the-art new building. And a lot planned by the football team throughout this final season. They're going to celebrate each decade of Rider football that was played here.
B.J. Coleman once again, quick hitter, knocked down. And they should. I mean, this market is incredible. And again, it probably has been a bucket list thing for a lot of football fans who have never gotten here to see a game. Should try to do it before this stadium is gone and then get to the new one as well, because it is special during a regular season game anytime. And the great history. Suits, you were part of it here. You know what it's like.
Well, and this was a big crowd for this preseason game. A lot of people left in the power outage, obviously.
Rainey once again. Penalty flags down and a big pop. Quinn Van Glizik doing the kicking now for the Riders as well. We'll come back to Mosaic.
The look at the 2011 season for Travis Lulay. Not only the MOP of the league with almost 5,000 yards passing, but also delivered in the Grey Cup game and was the MVP at home in BC Place in 2011, the year that right after that championship, Wally Buono moved up and became the GM.
This is the first training camp since that time that Travis Lulay has not been the #1 quarterback.
The GM alone.
Yes.
He was always the dual role, but left the sideline.
Lions have not won a playoff game since that time. Goal this year is obviously much more. Seem well armed with Lulay and Jonathan Jennings. However, they work this tandem. 1st and 10, long field again for Lulay. Floats this one up, and that one kind of slipped out of his grasp, it seemed.
Pretty good coverage there by Ed Gainey for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. He made it a difficult throw for Lulay to make, and I've heard from many sources, including Wally Buono earlier tonight, that Lulay is making all the throws that he was making back in those 2011-2012 season. But good coverage there by Ed Gainey made it difficult.
Whistles blow. Time clock had come down to 0. Did they get it off in time?
Procedure. BC, number 63. 5-yard penalty. Remain second down.
Back they go again. One thing that hasn't changed, Wally, guy who never wears the headset, still on that sideline without it.
pressure. There's always pressure on head coaches in professional sports, but even more now with the new rules that are challengeable.
Talked about that as well. Lule again, now decides. Again, another drop pass. Terrence Jeffers Harris unable to come up with it. So once again, a 2-and-out for the BC Lions. Richie Leone gave up 2 last time, and might he be prompted to do the same again here?
Terrence Jeffers Harris has had a very good camp. He's had a bit of a tweak in his back, a sore back, but has stayed on the practice field. That was a flat-out drop by Harris.
Leone in about the same position as he was last time. Will boot it this time. There's Ford, Petarius Ford. Saskatchewan will get good field position at the 45-yard line. A mother is a protector and caretaker until you cross her. Emmy winner Ellen Barkin stars in Animal Kingdom. 2-hour series premiere June 14th at 9 Eastern on Bravo. So the Riders, with 6:45 to go here in the third quarter, will keep B.J. Coleman at quarterback here. It's their best start of a sequence in this game. Confusion in the backfield. Jonte Hebert. Six-yard pickup.
Both teams in this third quarter trying to get some evaluation happening with their running backs, seeing a little more run in the and the offensive line. The younger offensive linemen just firing off and run blocking.
Firing near sideline. Another drop here.
Boy, there's been a lot. That's Langford. Lots of drops. Lots of drops tonight. Lots of penalties tonight. And that tells you this is preseason. And then the blackout certainly didn't help.
Power drop.
But there's no question Langford should have had that. The last throw attempted in his direction was intercepted off his hand.
So back-to-back 2-and-outs. Tyler Crapigna. This will come from the 48-yard line. Kick is up, and it is wide and short, and they will give up 1. Crapigna misses. Lions.
It's good for a single. Lions still lead the Riders
18-9. There were some coaching shifts. The carousel was spinning in the offseason.
Which happens. You see that, I think, in all sport, year in and year out. What's unique about this year, where the Calgary Stampeders and the Edmonton Eskimos were 14-4 teams, and Edmonton won the Grey Cup, and they have new head coaches. Jason Moss takes over for Chris Jones, who is now here. The succession plan in Calgary has always been, or has been for a few years now, Dave Dickinson to take over for John Hufnagel. And as you can see on that bottom line, Hufnagel, of course, remains as the Calgary Stampeders general manager.
Seismic shift in the offseason, of course, in Edmonton to Saskatchewan, with Jones coming here and bringing almost his entire coaching staff. Shocked the CFL world. Riders hoping it will pay off after a 3-15 season. Travis Lule, pair of 2-and-outs, trying to get this offense rolling as Rolly Lumbala gathers that in. Half the first down yardage. The veteran fullback.
Well, such a valuable part of the team. I mean, doesn't often get the headlines that the starting tailbacks or receivers get, but Rolly Lumbala plays a lot of roles.
Lule throws it up, and an interference call coming. Gainey. Flag for this. Travis Lule went one-on-one right away.
Pass interference, Saskatchewan, number 11. Point of the foul, automatic, first down.
Yeah, ran right through him. You will not see a challenge from either coach there.
Zuma and Nwachuka again. They call him easy with those bright orange shoes. You can't miss him.
Well, now Chris Jones does want to take another look at it. I think he went and challenged that. It looked pretty obvious to me that Ed Gainey ran over the intended receiver without looking back or trying to play the football in any way. It's not necessarily the look back that makes a difference.
The previous play of defensive pass interference. This will be reviewed.
It's not necessarily the look that really matters. You don't have to look back to the football to play good defense. But you do have to be playing the football and not through the receiver.
After review, it has been confirmed that we did have pass interference by Saskatchewan. Ruling on the field stands. First down.
That did not take long.
No. And I think you could probably chalk that one up to Chris Jones just practicing challenging.
Preseason.
Practice your challenges.
Well, Wally said yesterday that's going to be interesting for him because there are so many different challenges now as opposed to the last time he was on the sideline. He'll have somebody constantly in his ear, even though he doesn't wear a headset. JJ again, Jeremiah Johnson.
Ten games with Ottawa last year, and Jeremiah Johnson consistent 5-yard average with that football team, and no Andrew Harris in the backfield for the BC Lions. He's now a Winnipeg Blue Bomber. Went back home.
Second down and 5. Lule slanted, almost picked. Got to do push-ups in the preseason. It's just like practice. You miss
one in practice. You got to do push-ups.
Darius Brooks going to come up with the ball, so he does 10.
A lot of Saskatchewan jerseys where Lule tried to force the ball into there.
Richie Leone again. This one gets through. Extends the lead to 21-9, and even after the power failure here as we got startup, switch came back on, lights came back on. Not only the Lions and the Saskatchewan Roughriders getting ready.
The officials are got to get their team together as well.
Hey, stay focused, right? This is just a disruption. We're all ready for this. Just get back into your game mode. Watch your keys. Give them a good game. Be solid. We got to move quickly and get this game going, okay? Team on 3. 1, 2, 3. Team!
Now Bradbury's got some good coach speak there. That'd go well. They're in regular season form. Once again, the Riders and the Lions. Riders going back to Brent Smith again. And a penalty flag flies late there. So back and forth they go with Coleman and Smith giving both equal opportunity here tonight, Suits.
Yeah, they were going to split the reps. When we talked to Chris Jones before the game, that's what he talked about. He said, you know, they've got to figure out who's going to play behind Darian Durant.
Number 50, 10-yard penalty, remains first down.
If you're just joining us, Darian Durant was in the warm-up. He is dressed, but will not see any action in this game tonight, and has had a tremendous training camp. The Achilles is behind him. Said today to both of us before the game he feels great, and Chris Jones has been very impressed with their leader.
Could not wipe the smile off his face, and he had equally great things to say about Chris Jones. He said, man, I love Chris Jones. That ball could be be live according to the Lions sideline, but no, it was actually tossed ahead, and they were worried that maybe it was behind the intended target, Hebert, and then it would have been a live ball, but it's not.
Both guys competing for that number 2 spot behind Darian Durant, and there's the numbers. B.J. Coleman, 9 of 18. He's been better since the first quarter, and 6 of his last 10. Brett Smith looks very nervous for a guy who has some experience.
Smith flings one up near sideline. Well, Brett Smith also said during training camp that, you know, a lot of people said, well, it's your job really as the backup because you've been here before, but he said,
to the face, Saskatchewan, number 51. Penalties decline, 3rd down.
He's not competing against anyone except himself. Can't be happy right now with that toss.
Well, just watch his feet. You know, when he finally sort of moves a little bit to his left, see his feet hopping. He almost bails out of that throw. Doesn't really step into it, and it sailed well over the head of the target.
Another good kick. Quinn Van Gilswick of the UBC T-Birds, 49-yard boot. Has had some NFL looks as well. BC native, Vanier Cup champion. Big leg.
Well, it's preseason, and offenses are at this time of year are behind the defense. Defense a lot of time is just about getting to the football, getting 12 hats on the football and hustling. So the offenses and their timing, it's always they're a little bit behind, but I think it's safe to say the Saskatchewan defense is going to be a lot better this year than it was last. I know that's not elite. It's not a long way. I'm not going out on a limb to say that, but
there goes Jeremiah Johnson, left side. Biggest run of the ball game for him. Shreds that Saskatchewan underbelly.
Almost looked like there was a little misdirection that confused some of the Rider defenders. They didn't look like they could find the football there on that last play. It was a very simple handoff, but that cut there was a lot of defenders just kind of wondering where the ball was. Johnson took it 16 yards.
Johnson again. You and I had a conversation with Chris Jones before the game, talked about your favorite number, 27. How about this guy, 6 foot 5 inch safety, Kevin Francis.
North Carolina A&T. But loves his size. Of course, Chris Jones likes defenders with the long arms, tall guys that can get to the football, but he raved about Kevin Francis, who has played some offense but is going to play at that safety, is working out at that safety spot.
Also a track star there. Lule has to retreat now. Here comes the heat. Threw it away. Knocked down. Marcus White in on Travis Lule, and they'll huddle up again. Sometimes they say in preseason, you know, you just want to feel that contact, and that's the first time really that Lule's had to pick himself up.
That's a big safety. 6'5", 220 roam in the middle.
Once again out of the backfield, Jeremiah Johnson's been a weapon. Clock ticks down to zeros here in the third quarter. Greg Jones makes the tackle. And that will be the third quarter. The BC Lions lead the Saskatchewan Roughriders 21-9. Normally you'd be watching SportsCenter right now, but we've got extended coverage thanks to the blackout here. We're back with the fourth quarter from Regina in a moment. Well, in many ways, a typical preseason game, really a typical first preseason game for both teams. A few hiccups here and there.
Tough to gauge the quarterbacks. I mean, even the veterans, Jonathan Jennings and Travis Lule playing in that third quarter, when you have lots of penalties that stop drives, when you have lots of drop passes from your receiving core that stop drives. Tough for quarterbacks to get in a rhythm and really show, you know, what kind of training camp they're having. And then the blackout didn't help you.
Well, I was going to say that could disrupt you too. You go into the locker room, you start thinking, okay, like for a BJ Coleman or even a Jonathan Jennings, you come up, okay, now we're going to go into the second half. We got all these new guys, try to formulate a game plan, and then you got this interminable delay. Maybe even thinking they may not play. But guess what, we are. And so here we are into the fourth quarter. Ricky Collins dropped the football. And the BC Lions look like they have it. Collins drops the ball. That will not help any aspirations for employment at any stage, but certainly not in your first preseason game.
You know, sometimes decisions, and I'm not saying that this one play will get Collins cut, but sometimes the preseason gives the coach an easy decision. What they'd like to have is a whole bunch of really tough ones when it comes to the cut down day. But we've seen a lot of drops. We've seen penalties.
Yes. From veterans, by the way, tonight.
And so you can't make mistake after mistake and expect to keep your job. So we'll see. Maybe there's some decisions that are becoming easier for these coaches.
Well, here's the thing: what you want, you got a quarter left. If you're Ricky Collins, you go on the sideline.
Yeah.
I want to get back in. I want to make a big play.
Yeah, get the ball back in your hands as quickly as you can.
So now Travis Lule. Lions trying to turn that turnover into points, and that's an overthrow. Jeffers Harris, intended target again.
You know, the second half of the season when Jonathan Jennings took over, I had a long talk with player personnel guy and one of the top scouts for the Lions, G. Roy Simon, of course,
legend.
familiar.
Superman.
The
Just
legend.
Superman.
Yeah, and of course, Rider fans will remember him from 2013, but he said Terrence Jeffers Harris, he was really impressed with him. He said, you know, I think the guy can be a 1,000-yarder. He's looking real good in practice, and he said he's had a good camp despite the back injury.
Here comes the rush. There goes the football. And
what a throw.
Unable to bring it in is Brian Burnham. So a penalty flag, though, was thrown at the 25-yard line. And it looks like it's against BC.
It's a holding call, and Al Bradbury, who was the head official in the Grey Cup game.
Hands to the face, BC number 57. Penalties decline, third down.
He wanted to get from Chris Jones whether or not he wanted to accept that penalty.
So I'll bring out the kick team once again. You mentioned G-Roy, and of course,
let's go!
Great moments. As a BC Lion, number retired, Grey Cup champion, and then of course here in Saskatchewan on this field, 2 touchdowns in the Grey Cup game.
Well, I'll never forget the embrace between G. Roy Simon and Darian Durant after that championship game here at Mosaic Stadium in 13.
Sure-footed Leone again. Kickers doing a lot of the work here tonight. 24-9 is the score. Preseason football from Regina continues on TSN. There's a familiar name on the sidelines for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. With more, let's go down to Lee Jones.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Rod. Jordan Reeves was known more as a basketball player because that's what he played in university. Went over to Europe to try to
Happy birthday to you.
To you.
Happy birthday to you.
I thought thought I got away with that.
It's okay. Ruining the story? Go ahead. It's your birthday. Happy birthday.
Anyway, Jordan Reeves, he came into Saskatchewan. He's really a receiver, but Chris Jones liked him so much, his athleticism, the fact he's 6'4". They used him at defensive end and special teams, like what he's seen so far. And you know what? He says last year he was in with Winnipeg as a receiver. He was kind of a basketball player learning to be a football player again. Now he's just simply a football player. And I'm going to get you guys back.
Way to be a pro and get through it, Lee. Nice job.
Right in the face, Gator. Right in the face.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy 36th birthday.
Happy 14th. Lee Jones, happy birthday to him. Cake from Gator the Gopher. And getting some feel now is Hebert. Got some real estate up near the midfield stripe. 21 yards.
Nice acceleration there from Jonte Hebert. Got that little swing pass, and you saw another gear as he turned the corner, saw some open field, and accelerated. Yard gain.
There you see Jordan Reeves on the sideline. Of course, his dad, Willard, one of the greatest running backs in Bomber history. His brother, Ryan, plays the St. Louis Blues. Comes by the talent quite naturally. There's a strong arm of Smith. And it is caught down the sidelines. Clarence Denmark scores. Touchdown. 54-yarder for the former Bomber.
And Clarence Denmark makes this play because this ball is slightly underthrown from Brett Smith. He puts the brakes on, comes underneath the defender, secures it, and then hits the end zone. Keenan Parker misplayed that. Clarence Denmark made him pick.
It's easy. Let's go. I'm out here. Same dude, baby. The same guy.
Clarence Denmark talking about making a pay. Bombers did not want to pay Clarence Denmark. Comes here.
I think that message was directed at in the direction of the Bombers, wasn't it?
It might have been. It's funny how Denmark's here. Dressler's there.
Ryan Smith.
Clarence Denmark used to be part of that Rider-Bomber rivalry now on this side. Good night for him. Big night for Lee. Getting a little pie-eyed. Our Lee Jones. Kraft Heinz Project Play is back. Nominate your project for a chance to win $250,000 recreational facility upgrade. Visit CraftHeinzProjectPlay.com.
Nice play by Clarence Denmark, one-on-one on Keenan Parker. So Parker's made a couple of plays, though, tonight.
Yes, he has.
Got beat that time, but wanted to look at him at that wide side corner spot. He's getting a lot of reps up there.
You don't want to make that block.
Quinn Van Gilswick making sure that that ball's on the tee. Here he is, the rookie kicker. Drafted in the 3rd round. And J.C. Coleman is snowed under. Lots of time left here. 24-16 game suddenly.
Let's take a look at that play again. I'll show you why Keenan Parker gets in trouble. Straight go route here, and Keenan Parker is the wide side corner. Now watch as he gets looking at the quarterback too long. He's looking at the quarterback now. He keeps dropping back too long now. His receiver is going by him. So if he loses his receiver, now he's got to turn and panic to try and catch up. And when he panics to catch up, he can't gather himself and make a play on the football. Denmark makes him pay for it. Just looking at the quarterback a little too long and losing his man outside it.
Once again, bursting outside. Fighting for yardage, scrapping is Jeremiah Johnson. Good pickup for the BC Lions. And Jordan Reeves makes the tackle. Talked about Reeves again earlier. Here's a guy who was a basketball standout with the Brandon Bobcats. Then he becomes a receiver. And he goes, And I've heard of receivers going to play like perhaps DB or even linebacker, but to go to the defensive line, that's a big receiver.
Yeah, Chris Jones got to look at him out in the east, in eastern Canada, and said he tested real well. He said, get ready, because I'm bringing you to camp as a D lineman.
And there's a fumble. Right there. Johnson able to hang on.
Just about to say that Jeremiah Johnson has done some good things here tonight. And they try to figure out how they're going to get that run game going in BC with no Andrew Harris, and recovers his own fumble there. Chris Rainey will see some plays offensively. He's their #1 returner, but he'll play in the backfield as well this year. Anthony Allen also not dressed tonight.
Lule turns the other way. Stretching out for it. There is a flag down. Jeffers Harris, they're looking at each side judge and the official looking at it. Was it a catch? Nobody signaled it yet. And we could not see it from our angle. Looked very close. Jeffers Harris was able to stretch out and snare this. Wow.
Blocking downfield before a pass across the line of scrimmage. BC number 46. 10-yard penalty.
So down. Moot point, but
that's a unbelievable catch.
Great catch. What a grab.
Got the right arm under it. That ball never touched the turf. That's what G. Roy mentioned to me. He's been impressed with the former Winnipeg Blue Bomber, Terrence Jeffers Harris.
Rolly Lumbala penalized, so that was a moot point. Play negated. 1st and 20 for the Lions with an 8-point lead. Preseason football here tonight in Regina. We had an hour delay earlier because of a blackout. Another penalty flag. Look out here. Brian Burnham is going to score all the way to the end zone, but will it count?
Chris Jones immediately pointed to the flag.
Offside. BC number 83. 5-yard penalty. Remains first down.
Never mind. Here it comes back, but Burnham burns through as he took it 80 yards to the house. So back-to-back penalties by the Lions take away big plays.
Yeah, it looks like both these receivers on this side of the field jumped the gun, were offsides. Yeah, clearly. Almost 2 yards offside. I think Lion fans, though, have to be encouraged with the zip on the football from Travis Lule. That ball was on the money. And there was a time when he had his shoulder issues that he couldn't make that throw. But it looks like that arm is live and it's back. Travis Lule.
So now 1st and 25 with 9 minutes to go in the 4th. Late night Saturday night here in Saskatchewan. Dump it off to Johnson. Jeremiah trying to scramble out. Still on his feet. 10-yard pickup.
Not a bad play after a penalty. You get first down over again. You put 4 receivers to the wide side of the field. And basically, you're just trying to get your running back in space. Jeremiah Johnson's done some good things tonight. Get him out there and try and get the lost yards back and get yourself in 2nd and 10. Now, for the Lions, it'll be a little bit longer than that. It's going to be 2nd 14. Offensive coordinator Kahari Jones, though, trying to get his running back, and then he makes one guy miss, and it could be a bigger play.
Well, Jeremiah Johnson, all he did with Ottawa last year was score the football. Only 10 games, but 9 touchdowns on the ground. And once again, it's Coleman, but he'll just get to the line of scrimmage. There's a penalty flag again, far side of the field.
A lot of flags here tonight, and you know, really yes, it's preseason game
Illegal
number
contact
one.
on a receiver. Saskatchewan, number 1. This is a 10-yard penalty. Remain second down.
But you know, I don't want to give the players or the coaches or anyone excuses on that, because you know, this year the officials have been in every training camp across the country, and whether it's doing one-on-one drills, you know, skeleton kind of work, or even team scrimmages, they have been there calling penalties. So the players should know what the standards are, and I haven't seen a penalty tonight
that wasn't a penalty
and that were part of the new rules or anything like that. It's not like they're having trouble understanding. These are just run-of-the-mill penalties.
Well, on the players, too, shaking off a lot of rust. So down to 2nd and 5, and Coleman once more. And depending on the spot, which would have to be right at the 50, the Lions will be able to work themselves out of a 1st and 25. It looks like they're going to be a little bit shy. It's going to be 3rd and probably inches.
By the way, Rod, you know, we talk...
No, they're going to make it a 1st down. Sorry, Suits.
Yeah, trying to evaluate players and what these coaches are looking for and looking at. I mean, obviously the big ones, like a receiver drops a pass, that's a minus, and too many of those, and it's apple and a road map. But there's subtle things like penalties. If you're taking one too many penalties, that can cost you your job in a hurry.
Swinging it out once more.
Because there's, you know, basically 2 reasons that you're going to get those penalties. One, you have poor technique, and poor technique gets you cut. Or 2, just a little bit lazy or trying to, you know, catch up, not hustling, full speed, and then you grab because the player you're playing against has gone by you. Either way, those are things that get you cut quickly.
Well, again, some of these players will get that bad news maybe as early as later tonight, tomorrow. Cut down day to 65 is Tuesday. Lule standing in again, and in traffic is Sean Gore. Oh, this is the Travis Lule that we grew accustomed to watching a couple of years ago.
I'm seeing some snap in the arm, really.
Snap and that good decision making and the ability to shred defenses.
Well, that anticipation will be there. In fact, Wally Buono mentioned it, said, you know, it looks like the Travis of old, talking to some of his teammates today as well. And they said, boy, Travis looks good. Jonathan, don't take anything away from Jonathan Jennings, because he's had a great camp as well. But coming off those injuries, a lot of people cheering for Lule.
Coleman. Bucket down. Half the 1st down yardage. Well, big question marks in BC. They have the 2nd longest playoff streak. Consistent years making the playoffs, 19 years. But again, the last Grey Cup championship, 2011, when he did amazing things.
Well, and this is a good situation for BC, because no matter who starts, Jonathan Jennings in a game or Travis Lule in a game, they've both proven they can win. Certainly Lule over his history, and Jonathan Jennings, shorter resume, good player from last year.
6 receivers set, and there goes Lule chucking it out. Once again, there's easy.
Marcel Belfay is also on the staff here in BC, and I talked to him about the 2 quarterbacks, 1 in 1A in Vancouver, and he said, you know, if you have one, it's 1 and out. You are basically 1 and done, because you need 2 quarterbacks in the CFL to win a championship. You know, the BC Lions and Saskatchewan and Winnipeg will tell you that when they lost their number 1, how difficult it really was last year.
Ryan Langford is back. And this one will sail into the end zone and through for a single point. 4:16 to go and counting here. 24-16 BC Lions. Rider fans can't wait to see that guy. Plenty of excitement in Pittsburgh these days. Just outside Pittsburgh, Oakmont, the U.S. Open tees off Thursday. 1st round action. Catch it at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific on TSN 1 and 3. Presented by Freedom 55 Financial. That's what you got to love about going even in the preseason game. especially for the young ones, the young fans. B.J. Coleman back in, and he's picked off. Third pick of the night. And taking that away from him is Anthony Thompson. One of the picks.
B.J. Coleman, who's been playing in arena ball, was his last action, has got to understand in the Canadian Football League, with the field this wide, if you're going to throw it deep to the wide side of this field, it's got to get out of your hands quickly, or else this is going to happen. It'll be badly underthrown and be going the other way.
Did I tell you?
Second round pick, 12th overall.
Appreciate it, mama.
From the BC Lions, Anthony Thompson. Craig McGee's in at quarterback now for the BC Lions. J.C. Coleman with the pickup.
Out of Howard, 23-year-old Greg McGee. Dressed 9 games, was really used last year as the short yardage quarterback. Put up some numbers at Howard, though.
9-point ball game, and the BC Lions trying to add to it here. Again, the numbers inconsequential, meaningless really, stats, the W's, but what they're trying to do is create that culture of winning and get some rhythm for the regular season, which begins in 12 days. 3-minute warning here in Regina. Man, it's been a long night since. Hey, maybe we'll... 2 more preseason games on TSN. Of course, each team gets 2 preseason contests. Bombers in Ottawa on Monday night, 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. And then the Argos in Montreal, Friday night football. And we know one thing for sure. BC will have Jonathan Jennings and Travis Lulay. We know Darian Durant is the starter in Regina. Do you think Brent Smith maybe added a little bit to the competition here? He might be the favorite going into the second preseason game.
Yeah, I think even, you take a look at the numbers between the two, B.J. Coleman and Brett Smith. Less opportunity for Smith tonight, but pretty good numbers. Big yards on 1 throw, and then 99 yards for Brett Smith. I would say coming out from what I've seen, even though he looked nervous and couldn't settle his feet for the most part tonight, that Brett Smith has the edge at the number 2 spot. And the problem for B.J. Coleman is Darian Durant's going to play most of the next preseason game, because they got to get him back into playing speed. And that psychological issue of, is the Achilles going to be on his mind? He says it hasn't been a problem in practice, but he's got to see that in the game times as well.
Leone to put this really out of reach now. And he does, 28-16.
I asked him, I said, when you're, breaking the huddle or you're walking up to the line in practice, do you think, okay, Achilles, are you good? Are you, and stretching in the huddle, things like that. And that would just indicate to me that it's on his mind. If it's on his mind, it could affect his focus. He said, absolutely not. He said, the only time it affects him a little bit is well after sort of the drill is over and he's going back to the dorms, and he goes, I want to stretch it and make sure I ice it down, and I think about it then. But here was the injury. No one around him. No one touched him. And it just was an unfortunate, unlucky freak accident. And that was it for his season. Game one.
Game one right down here.
He was 13 of 18 and 2 touchdowns before that injury.
And by the way, that was the season for the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Well, absolutely.
That was it.
In the last 2 years, Darian Durant's missed 25 games. So Rider fans, I know, are real excited about his return. And, you look at the numbers, he gets back to the form of even just a few years removed in the Grey Cup championship season, where, by the way, through that playoff run and the championship game itself, that guy put the team on his shoulders. Remember the BC playoff game? He ran for over 100 yards in that game to win that one.
Well, you talked about, that Achilles and what his ability is, of course, his ability to get out of the pocket and to roll. to scramble, and Terrence Cobb is back here. So, you know, the same thing you said about Jonathan Jennings and Travis Lulay, the fact that Marcel Belfait was saying, you know, you have to have a couple. You have to have. What about Saskatchewan? The good news is that they have a healthy competition for backup. But behind Darian.
But it's unsettled.
It's unsettled.
This is nowhere near the same situation the BC Lions have at the #2 spot. I mean, you're talking Jennings as this bright rising star in BC. And then Lulay, with all his experience and the injuries behind him, they're in a much better situation.
Here's the fourth guy on the depth chart tonight. Philip Sims drops it off. Hebert again. Minute 50 to go, and so here comes Sims into the ball game. Coleman started. Brett Smith came in. And again, Darian Durant listed tonight but did not play. So
it at Alabama. Winston-Salem.
Lets it fly. It almost picked off, but a penalty flag, and this is looking like interference. There is the pick again. Anthony Thompson out of Montreal, Quebec, second rounder. Well, they call this interference.
Defensive pass interference, BC, number 28. This will be a 10-yard penalty and an automatic first down.
Pretty good technique. Just early.
Yeah, over the top.
Anthony Thompson. So he's got a plus for the pick and a minus on the PI.
Sims now rolls to his left. Here comes the rush from behind, and he's going to step out of bounds, loses the football. You know, we talked with Wally before the game also about his acquisitions in the defensive backfield, getting Mike Edom from the Alouettes.
Brandon Stewart.
And Brandon Stewart, who's not here tonight, and he's basically said, Brandon, you've made the team. You're good right now.
Yeah, playmaker, he called him. And Mike Edom's an interesting one, too. He's moved him to safety. And it's been some time now. You have to go back to Baron Miles, the last all-star free safety. And that's not, you know. Mike's saying, why do you got the camera on me? I've been out for a while.
And almost picked that time, too.
Oh, Mike Edom from the HC. You go back to Baron Miles and maybe before that Nelson Martin.
Alex, this y'all. That's how we do things. We come into town and get on you. And we on the flight back home with a W.
And that's not disrespectful to guys like J.R. LaRose and guys that have played safety for BC. It's bottom line is the last all-star was Baron Miles. And they're looking for another guy in the middle that can help them. Mark Washington can get those veterans, T.J. Lee, Ronnie Yell, and Ryan Phillips around a safety that can make plays and be physical. And they've got a good secondary.
Timeout is called here with 58 seconds to go. They had a personnel problem. You heard Mike Edom say we're going back home tonight. Jeremiah Johnson as well. They're going home. The Lions will charter. They chartered in today. They charter out tonight. The Riders will get on a bus and go back to training camp in Saskatoon. Finish off Saskatoon training camp tonight.
And we're going to the bar. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's closed by the time we're going to get there.
Was that my insight?
That's
Is that my insight?
We might be going. We might be.
Was that my insight?
That's okay. And you're right. We probably will. Post-game analysis.
Yes.
It's preseason.
We got to break it down.
It's preseason. So only a few seconds left.
And honestly, the positives for BC, tough to evaluate quarterbacks with all the change and things like that. But Jonathan Jennings showed that great seam throw again, showed his athleticism a few times, looked good. And I think more importantly, Travis Lulay, his arm strength is back, and we saw that tonight.
They both look like they hadn't missed a beat.
Yeah, they look good.
Particularly this guy.
Lots of room to grow and lots of room to get better. The coach will tell him that, but you can take that out of this game.
They just bring it out.
Saskatchewan, on the other hand, now still has to look at who's going to win that number 2 job. It's going to be even tougher to evaluate that when Darian Durant plays most of the next preseason game. Clarence Denmark looked like a guy who has stepped up. He's made some plays tonight, and he's been open a couple of times and underthrown. And Clarence Denmark is a good ad for Chris Jones, and you can tell their defense will be better.
What a precursor to the regular season, that next preseason game for Saskatchewan. Headed to Edmonton. Isn't that interesting? And the BC will be back home to the Calgary Stampeders. 16 seconds to go here.
Rob Bagg made that big play early, too. He looks good. He's going to move to the inside. A guy I think he could have 1,000 yards, stays healthy.
And so hard to, look at the numbers or how you win or getting a win. And you just want people to be in form, and you don't want anybody to get hurt. Gear up, because guess what, Suits? It's around the corner.
Oh, yeah.
So in a wild night here in Regina, preseason game, you just come in, you think you get a little evaluation. You don't realize that you're going to be here for almost 4 hours because of a power failure. Now the rain starts to fall. We'll see Darian in our next preseason game and getting ready for the regular season. Travis Lulay looking good tonight. So too Jonathan Jennings. The BC Lions come into Regina and win it 28-16 as the preseason continues. The farewell season of Mosaic Field. The night the lights went out in Regina, the Lions' lights were shining bright. Good night, everybody, from Mosaic. Sports Center coming up right now.